Hey guys.
How you doing?
It's dark and dank and rainy. That's hot. Anyway, what did I want to talk about today? I wanted to speak about political rhetoric, which I probably am getting myself in too deep here. But I don't mind a little bit of a challenge. And I don't mind people telling me to shut up either. Because I can, or I won't. So that's alright. What prompted this video was I heard a clip from, I think it was The View. Believe me, I don't watch. When I became disinterested in what a lot of those women had to say. And I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm just saying, when people are giving each other the side eye a little bit, and they know that they're not supposed to say something, and you as the audience know something's going on here. It becomes a little disheartening to watch women who are supposed to have a view not be allowed to necessarily speak their view. But the Condoleezza Rice, if you want to call it an interview, popped up. Because of the algorithm, of course, right? And I found what she said to be interesting. And then I began listening to other people prop up what it was that she said. And I have a lot of notes here. So I will kind of paraphrase what it was she said. They were talking about something, and they, meaning the other women, the panel. And then Condoleezza Rice said that she wanted to talk about the CRT. And I really don't know that much about what this CRT is about, other than I know that they were in school. And I can tell you that nobody was learning any of this CRT that people are suggesting that is being taught. So I'm in the dark as to what's going on. I don't understand why people are talking about something that I don't even see evidence of. But let's go on with the idea that maybe it's happening. But I have to tell you, as a parent to 2 children, all these years, the history lessons that my children got were my children got lessons that were full of gaps. I mean, and that's me putting it as nicely as I can. You know, when it was time to learn about indigenous people, they were given, feathers to stick on their foreheads. When it was time to learn about some of these presidents, they learned about some of the laws that they passed, not about, Sally Hemings or anything. When they were taught about Geronimo, it was about how strong he was. It wasn't about how he died and he was forced to be put in a circus. When they talked about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it was about the bombs that went off. It wasn't about the internment camps. When they talked about the atrocities that were committed against the Jewish people, they talked about that. They didn't talk about the mad scientists that they brought over here in that Operation Paperclip, I think it was called. So we have a history of teaching kids history in a way that omits a lot. And I didn't get to slavery, you noticed. Because most of the time it's not gotten to. It's kind of skipped over, and we just skip right over to Martin Luther King. And yeah, I mean, they gloss on the Trail of Tears. In a way that, Indigenous people are just crying for no reason about something. And then we just skip right over to how wonderful pioneers are. Never really hitting on how they came to their greatness, So, back to the point. This CRT that's supposedly being taught, I haven't seen evidence of it. I don't know what they're talking about. But if I'm going to go with what they're talking about and say, okay, Condoleezza Rice, you're on The View, you're talking about it, and you make some points. What I really want to talk about was, I want to talk about identifying political rhetoric, okay? And like I said, I'm not an expert at this. But I found it was interesting that the panel let her speak, and they really couldn't respond. And it was almost like people were just baffled until they had nothing better to do than to clap. I mean, the whole thing was embarrassing to me. And it was embarrassing because, we should be better than that. We should be more skilled than that. It was maybe like a 5-minute clip. She starts off and I'm paraphrasing everything, okay? You guys need to go and look at the video yourself. She talks about, as a child, her segregation, okay? In Alabama, when she was younger. And she's using that as a reference point for you all to be able to relate to her, so she knows. So this is where her credibility comes in, that she is an authority on segregation in systemic racism, okay? Which she probably is, right? Okay? Then she gets to, I think it's about 2 minutes and 26 seconds in, where she says that her parents taught her that she can be anything that she wants to be. That people should be able to be anything that they want to be. But she never really touches on how hard that is to do. When Black children, brown people, Asian people, Latino people have difficulty achieving many of the things that they want to achieve because of the subjugation that they face. She never gets into that. She just talks about this time in the past that her parents told her, that's not going to be your problem. And maybe it wasn't her problem. But that was based on some of the decisions that she made with the tools that she has. The same tools that are not offered to many of the children that I see around here. No one questioned her on that. She gets to 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Then she says that suggesting things aren't a certain way are just not productive. Okay? She gets to 2 minutes and 55 seconds. She says that she wants Black kids to feel empowered. Okay? She gets a little bit further. She says, but let's not make white kids basically feel bad or have hurt feelings. And I could feel that people wanted to question her on that panel about that, but people clapped instead. And I say, why? Why are you clapping? If we're learning about, the Japanese people getting melted to walls, and we're learning about the Jewish people going to Auschwitz, and we're learning about, the indigenous people's Trail of Tears. Why? And we have hurt feelings about all those things. I know my children, when I taught them things, they were hurt. I know when I was young, I was hurt. And, here's my credibility. I am and was never a Secretary of State. Sorry, that was a lot of car. Yes, I was never the Secretary of State. I am a mother. However, my background is this. I've already told you that I was adopted. My birth family is Puerto Rican. I was shuffled around between different homes with different ethnicities, and then I was adopted by a black family, okay? And my parents wanted me to have an education that they thought was better than what I could have where I was, so I ended up going to an all-white school from elementary years to high school years. There's my credibility. Okay? And this was all in the North. Then, you know, when I became an adult, I moved to the South. There's my credibility. All right? And I can tell you that there are things going on. There were things going on back then that need to be discussed. They don't just go away just because someone tells you you can be the best that you want to be. You need tools to do that. You need tools that are not necessarily being offered up. You also need to know what was in the past that was not so good, to know that you are actually being better than what was in the past. That would require you to take a look into the past. So this idea that feelings are going to be hurt, so we should be discouraged from teaching things in a certain type of way, or just maybe not even saying them at all, that's ridiculous. It is actually one of the most ridiculous things I've heard all year. And it's been a long year. It's been a very long year. I think at 313 she said that she would agree that, black people were treated as second-class citizens. No, that's not a fact. What's a fact is, at one point, they weren't citizens. They were property. Okay? Property. And this whole thing, this whole language that she used brings me to the main point. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about Aristotle's Triangle. And, you know, I'm not one of those people that just reads philosophers all the time. But what she was doing, I remember, I went through her list of things, just like how I just gave it to you. And what I did was I put a positive sign next to all the points that she made that were positive, that had a positive emotion. And then I put a negative sign next to all the things that kind of had a negative connotation. And I'm telling you, after I did that, down the list that I just gave you, okay, what I noticed was a pattern. A pattern in this one conversation. And it was like this. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, and reiterate one more time, you know, white children should not have hurt feelings. For something that, let's be honest, cannot be avoided. Okay? It cannot be. It wasn't avoided for anybody else on the planet, was it? Goodness gracious. The positive and negative, the back and forth, the volleying, it really led to nowhere, okay? And it reminded me of Aristotle's Triangle. And what I mean by that is, and she uses the technique masterfully, okay? And I'm probably using some of it right now. I will give you an example. So, let me get my notes. Okay. So, Aristotle's Triangle, I can't really explain it that well, but it's basically the tools that are used by people, mostly politicians, to win a debate. It's their rhetoric, okay? Their persuasive powers. It's their ethos, which is their credibility, their pathos, which is their emotion, and their logos, which is their reason. If you go back to what she was saying, right? She referenced Alabama as her point of credibility, okay? That's also her pathos. That's emotion. Because we think, oh my gosh, what happened to those 4 little girls in the church? What happened during segregation? She really knows what she's talking about, right? Then she goes to insert emotion when she tells us, okay, but black people, you kids, you can be anything you want. And then she goes to, but let's not be unproductive when you're doing these things, okay, and achieving all that you want to achieve. That's negative. Then she goes to, but be empowered. That's a positive. She's making an emotion for you to latch on to this idea, her idea of what empowerment is. Okay? And then she goes back for the second time. 2 times she talks about, but don't make white kids feel bad. This history that we teach them, we have to be careful because it hurts their feelings. And that's all that she wanted to do, was she wanted to be able to reason all the way up till she got to her conclusion. This was her rhetoric that people clapped for at the end. My issue with it is that she uses her credibility that disables your own. Okay? Well, how does she do that? She's referencing a time from when she was a kid, and when her parents told her that she can be whatever she wants to be. And so maybe some of us identify with that, okay? But then that allows us in our mind to say, oh, okay, well, that's true. That's true. But it doesn't change the fact that she's not a mother. She has no children. How does she know what curriculum is being taught? How can she relate to you as a parent? That's where your credibility is supposed to be the authority. But instead, she's disabled it. So she can slide her credibility, which at this point is really not credible in the way that we need it to be credible. Okay? And then she follows suit with emotion and logos. And at the end of the day, it makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. But nobody said to her, are you a mother? Have you seen your child's curriculum? Do you know that we're living in a different time period that has a sense of continuity from what happened in the 1960s? Nobody asked her those questions. It was very interesting. I remember, and here's my story. Here's one of my points of credibility. One of my points of pathos that hopefully leads to logos was I remember being in 6th grade, and I had this white teacher, very nice man. I'm not going to say his name. I don't even know if he's still alive. He wanted to teach us about slavery. Now, mind you, my family was only one of 2 families that went to this school that were, and yes, my family told me, you're Puerto Rican. I was raised culturally black, if you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, you know, you'll have to go figure it out. Okay? And I remember it was time for this part of the curriculum where the teacher, he strolled out the you know, they used to put the box TVs on the little cart and bring it in. He turned the lights off and we're sitting there. And he turns on the movie Roots. Now, I had not read the book yet. But, oh my gosh. These white kids, they were just looking at each other. I sat in the back of the classroom. No, that wasn't because he put me there, but I just like to sit in the back, you know? So they are murmuring, they are looking at each other, they are not knowing what's going on. A couple of them looked my way, you know? Oh gosh, and when they got to the point in the movie where Kunta gets caught and he has the shackles around his neck and he's trying to get out. I mean, it made these kids uncomfortable. It made them so uncomfortable that they went home and told their parents about their discomfort. They went home and complained to their parents. And the next day I come to school and I'm ready to watch you know, I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens on the boat when he's transported. But no, I couldn't learn that because what happened in that classroom was the teacher was not allowed to play it anymore. I went up to him and I asked him, I said, what happened to the movie? Why are we not watching it? Some other kids did too. Some of the kids, it wasn't an overwhelming amount of kids that went up to him and asked him, but some of them wanted to know. And he said that he couldn't mention the names of the kids, that it made feel bad. But some of the parents were not happy that their children felt bad about learning about Kunta Kinte. And so he couldn't play it anymore. I remember how I felt about that. That I had to sit there and learn about Christopher Columbus, and not the right way, mind you. And learn about these pioneers. And learn about George Washington and his cherry tree. But when it was time to talk about slavery, I couldn't learn that. And they weren't allowed to learn it either. And I remember I went home and I told my dad what happened. And he said, well, you know what? You can watch it at home. But there's the book first. And I went and I read the book. And then I watched the movie. And I felt like those kids were missing out on something. Because we grow from what makes us feel good and what makes us feel bad. And when you try to go such a length to protect somebody from bad feelings, you are not empowering them, okay? You're telling Condoleezza Rice, you're telling us to, you know, I want black people to feel empowered. Do you not want white people to feel empowered? Because knowing about the past and learning about it, that's empowering. Leaving things out is not empowering. That makes you weak. And I remember those kids. They grew up, I went to high school with them, and some of them, not all of them, they were the same kids that were, they were scared to watch Roots. They were so scared to watch Roots. They were so hurt by what they were going to see. But they were not scared, these same kids, to later in high school, you know, pull out the old carts, roll it into the cafeteria, and wait to hear O.J. Simpson get pronounced guilty. I mean, they were clapping. They were clapping so much. They were on the edge. They couldn't wait till he got pronounced guilty. And I remember, you know, I felt like I had to leave that day. I felt like I had to call my parents and go home because they were that rowdy. They were that rowdy. Which could be very similar to something that Condoleezza Rice knows about, right? We have to know what we're dealing with when someone comes up on a panel and they feed us rhetoric. I don't know what's happening to people. Do they think anymore?